Over the past few months, people have been diving into the Epstein files, picking them apart, trying to find the worst pages, and today I'm delivering to you just that. Some of the most disturbing documents from all of the Epstein files are within this video. You thought you guys have seen the worst until now. For me, it's early morning, so I'm here with my coffee, ready to dive in. Thank you guys for subscribing. Let me know what you're drinking down in the comment section below. Now let's have a watch.
After reading email after email in the Epstein files, one thing is clear. Some of these food-related conversations aren't as innocent as they appear. Acts of cannibalism. These lines come from the Epstein files and have the internet convinced that Jeffrey Epstein and those around him may have engaged in cannibalism. So we'll show you how far this theory goes. Everything from strange emails and suspicious connections to resurfaced media. By the end, you'll understand why this theory has spread so far. One of the first things that stood out was certain language. Let's start with jerky. We'd like to believe that this is nothing but typical beef jerky, especially when we see emails like these that show a specific recipe and Jeffrey being critical of anyone who made it wrong. But after going through all 388 mentions of jerky, the interactions only got stranger. In October 2012, Jeffrey's personal chef at the time, Francis Derby, said, J.E. said he was going to start eating regular food again, so he might be eating less jerky.
Regular food. Beef jerky, in my opinion, is regular food. Maybe not something that you would consume on a daily, but it still is not something super out of the norm. So there's going to be a lot of things that you see in all of these 300 plus documents regarding jerky that lead us to believe that they're not actually talking about beef jerky, that they are actually talking about, meat. Maybe from humans.
That said, he has 6 bags of it in the downstairs freezer for his next trip. This line made it sound like Jeffrey was consuming jerky as a full meal, rather than a snack like most typically would. And insinuating that it was not regular food had people concerned. Chef Derby also said Jeffrey had 6 bags of jerky in the freezer, which is odd because jerky, which is dried and often cured, doesn't need to be frozen. Jerky experts say the only time you would consider freezing it is if you want to extend the shelf life an additional 6 to 12 months. But emails show Jeffrey frequently running out of jerky, so he likely did not need to extend the shelf life. In 2012 alone, there were requests for jerky 3 times, just months apart. The first appeared in April 2012. Can you make a big batch of jerky? 4 months later, in August 2012, no jerky left. Please make more. 2 months later, in October 2012, somehow I have no jerky again. I am very, very annoyed.
Wow. Okay, so saying that you're very, very annoyed because you don't have jerky is strange. Whether you're talking about regular beef jerky or any other type of food that they're calling beef jerky. To be annoyed that you don't have any is strange.
Then there was this email from NYC restaurant mogul Steve Hansen from August 2012, explaining that he ran out of beef jerky because his dog ate it all. He then added, I'll email Francis to make us more as I need 6 to 8 ounces to send to the lab. I'll forward Francis the info to the lab directly. Jeffrey later followed up with, did we analyze the jerky? If this was just ordinary beef jerky, why did Jeffrey need it tested and analyzed at all? Well, a month later, Steve Hansen's assistant, Rachel Bova, emailed Jeffrey's longtime assistant, Leslie Groff. Jeff had asked to have a sample of his beef jerky tested for nutritional value. Attached are the results. So was Jeffrey just being health conscious? Or was this a lab test for the nutritional value of a certain meat that's not commonly available? There was also the way the jerky was transported. In an email from November 2012 with both the sender and receiver redacted, the contents read, blank. Jojo is here and will walk the jerky over to Jeffrey. A month later, in December 2012, Rachel Bova wrote to a redacted user, have you ever shipped food? Do you know what has been through customs? We assume we can't write food on the package.
Interesting. Now, this Rachel Bova, why haven't we heard anything from her? I mean, Epstein's assistant and all, you would think there would be a lot of information in her head. Wouldn't mind hearing a few words from her and throwing a few questions her way.
The phrasing, to walk the jerky over, made people believe that they were talking about something with legs, humans. And worrying about customs had people speculating if this was really about food. And if this was the case, then emails like this from a redacted user are even more weird. delicious lunch, beef jerky. Steve and I are very grateful, above all, for your friendship. Or what about the many different places that this jerky seemed to be stored in? In April 2016, Jeffrey's latest known girlfriend, Kurina Sholiak, responded to a redacted user. Hi, there is one bag of beef jerky in the fridge at 71st. Please get it. And also, blank has more at her place. Please get it from her as well and bring it all with you. I suppose it needs to be in a cold, insulated bag, right?
First of all, jerky doesn't need to be in a cold, insulated bag. We know that if we're talking about traditional jerky. But also, my God, the number of people that are in on this whole beef jerky thing that are having these conversations, girlfriends, assistants, people that work with Epstein, people that are just friendly with Epstein, you think someone would come forward and say what was actually happening here? Or is the consequence for being involved in those actions so harsh that people aren't going to say a word ever? It'll be never be something that's actually admitted to.
The user responded, a small insulated bag would be just fine, and I wouldn't recommend checking it. No need for crazy amounts of ice. One should do. Why would they advise her not to check the jerky? Was there something she wasn't supposed to see? Even an email discussing the recipe for jerky was suspicious. The recipe listed 2 pounds of jerky with no clarification what type of meat was used. Then, in a response email with both the sender and receiver redacted, the user also pointed this out. I don't know what kind of meat he was using, but Steve should know if you are not sure either. For context, this was December 2012, just 1 month after Jeffrey's personal chef, Francis Derby, left. They appeared to be looking for Francis's jerky recipe to pass on to a new chef or assistant, despite Francis allegedly already teaching a jerky class during his last month. As for the mysterious meat in the recipe, if we're to believe their conversation at face value, then it could be 3 different animals from what our team found. In August 2012, Chef Derby says, I found elk at one place. I'm almost sure it will be very similar to bison. Very lean and flavorless when dried. I will keep looking unless you'd like to go ahead with this. Derby also emailed assistant Leslie Groth this. J.E. is still dieting for now. He's not eating much at all, mostly straight protein, beef jerky. We have gone through about 70 pounds of steak for beef jerky in the last 2 weeks. No joke.
All right, they said steak for beef jerky. This is the first time that they're actually referencing the jerky as something, as a type of meat. So here, it was stated steak.
And in December 21, Steve Hansen, who appeared to have taken over making jerky, responded to one of Jeffrey's assistants about the latest recipe. You don't have the type of beef that Jeff likes. So, if we take all of this at face value, it could just be animal meat. But then again, could elk, bison, and beef be code for something else?
Yeah, at face value, this all could just be animal meat, and they're enthusiasts of beef jerky. But I also think that that's not the case. I think that we're talking about something much more extreme here. But again, no proof has come out either way.
Also, pay attention to the 70 pounds of steak that was eaten in 2 weeks. This is not normal. According to the USDA, 1 pound of meat ends up being around 4 ounces of jerky. So 70 pounds of steak would turn into roughly 17.5 pounds of jerky. Over 2 weeks, that would mean eating roughly 1.25 pounds of jerky per day, which is far beyond normal snacking or meal amounts. Not to mention, it's a very high sodium intake food. No matter what the truth is, this email alone about switching to regular food has people convinced that jerky was something more crazy. If you thought the jerky emails were bad, take a look at this mention of flesh.
All right, so flesh. When we talk about our food, we don't typically call it flesh. That's a little bit grotesque when you're thinking about, the things that we're consuming.
In February 2017, Jeffrey asked Sultan bin Sulayem, the former CEO of DP World, a Dubai government-owned global logistics company, with questions about Anil Ambani, the billionaire chairman of the Resilience Group, one of India's largest conglomerates. Jeffrey starts with this. Does Ambani want fish? Sultan responded, he is vegetarian. No flesh of any kind. The phrasing, no flesh of any kind, is an unusually graphic way to describe vegetarianism. And Jeffrey even followed up with, okay, even Irish? Seeming to suggest an Irish person. It's possible they could have been talking grossly about a victim's body, but given the context that they were discussing food, many people saw this as a possible reference to consuming human flesh. On another note, Anil is recently under fire for allegations of bank fraud, and Sultan's position as CEO has been replaced after emails with Jeffrey revealed a years-long friendship and exchanges discussing explicit material and enjoying a torture video from Jeffrey.
Now, we've been hearing a lot of this. People that are typically in other countries are being let go or resigning from positions after people have noticed and heard, and it's become apparent that they had relations in some way with Jeffrey Epstein.
Let's reveal who is talking about hearts and bones. In July 2018, there was a text exchange involving a contact named Woody Allen and Self. People believe that it's the Woody Allen that groomed his then adopted daughter into his now wife. And Self is likely Jeffrey because the email G iTunes matches another email called G Vacation that has been confirmed as Jeffrey Epstein.
Now, you guys do know the story of Woody Allen, how he did have an adopted daughter who is now his wife. Very, very strange. Fitting with all the things that we're hearing, though, regarding how he was related to and involved with Epstein.
Their message started off about scheduling, helping a friend with a job search, and later, what kind of food Woody wanted during a later meetup. But in the middle of the conversation, Woody made a joke that seemed out of place. You were probably thrilled that you met me, that you probably have never met anyone so much on the take, not even in politics. Self replied, Idi Amin. Idi Amin was the former dictator of Uganda in 1971 to 1979. He is widely remembered for the brutality, killings, and bizarre rumors, including claims about cannibalism. After no response, nearly 1 minute later, Self sent another message. He didn't just cause heartburn, he ate them. And it's what Woody replied that makes the conversation darker. Thanks, winky face. At least I'm thinner. Self responded, because you also eat the bones, providing fiber. Woody replied, I don't like waste.
They are legit just talking right there about what they're doing. There's no hiding it. They're joking about it. Strange.
Why was Woody being compared to Idi Amin? Was this just dark humor involving cannibalism? Or was Woody actually an active participant? Another word that stands out is cream cheese and baby. In the over 3,000 mentions of baby, an email with the subject line, cream cheese baby, from a redacted user said this, LOL, I don't know if cream cheese and baby are on the same level. Jeffrey responded, there are millions of babies. Very good vegetable cream cheese. Discussing food and humans in the same line had people theorizing.
To me, it really seems like they're discussing eating babies.
Others have also theorized if there were other darker meanings, such as vegetable, referring to the non-moving state of a newborn, cream cheese, referring to the white vernix babies are born with.
Vegetable, like what you call, someone will call a person or a baby that has no function or very little functioning a vegetable, right? Like it's a kind of a mean term that's used. Could be.
Or cream cheese, referring to the digested milk formula in babies' intestines, and therefore would taste. You get the picture. However, after reading more messages, we would like to think that Jeffrey and the redacted user were possibly talking about regular vegetable cream cheese spread on bagels. After their initial exchange, the redacted user wrote, haha, do you want veggie cream cheese tomorrow? I would go look for it now. Jeffrey responded, don't look. Just go to 2J's, seeming to reference the 2J's Deli restaurant. The user responded, I tried, but they don't make it anymore. I will call Lake Worth and PB Gardens.
Wait, so you're telling me that like a bagel shop is actually making this stuff? Because there's no way that TG's or whatever that place was named doesn't make vegetable, like real vegetable cream cheese. Like every bagel shop makes that. So that would be quite strange.
Seeming to reference 2J's in Lake Worth Beach and Palm Beach, Florida. There are also multiple email exchanges mentioning vegetable cream cheese alongside other grocery items. And while the cream cheese seems real, it doesn't make it any less weird that on one occasion, Jeffrey or his associates would need it for a school party, as evidenced by this email. But that doesn't explain the millions of babies part. At least one person believed this could be a short form for a particular food item,
which I'm pretty sure is either Dutch babies or baby potato pancakes.
However, when we searched up the variations of Dutch baby pancakes, no results came up. On the topic of young ones, there's another word people are suspicious about, muffin. In over 329 mentions, Jeffrey and his associates are often seen requesting muffins or ingredients to make them. While some of the exchanges seem like honest conversations about baked goods, like this one from Jeffrey asking a redacted user to make a fresh muffin batch, walnuts instead of almonds. Or this announcement email about altering the muffin recipe to have no brown sugar on the top. Or a redacted user mentioning Jeffrey cut out muffins entirely to do a gluten-free diet.
Now, there's of course a chance that Jeffrey Epstein and his friends were all just massive food enthusiasts where they liked different types of bagel toppings, they liked different types of muffins, and different types of dried meats. That's a possibility, but knowing everything that surrounds it and taking all of the evidence that has been proven, it seems that this is more in line with the evil things that they're talking about here versus something that's a lot more innocent.
Or even this very normal muffin ingredient list. Not all of the exchanges were this normal. For example, the sender and recipient of this email was completely redacted. The contents read, "They are outstanding muffins. After I read this, I went and ate one myself. Well, half of one. They're huge. Loved having y'all over. You should come for Ike's birthday." The phrasing of only eating half because they're huge had people believing this was code for humans, the young ones. You know, because muffins are not huge at all. In another email from a redacted user with the letter R slightly peeking through, R said, "Muffin cravings," smiley face with tongue out. A muffin is nothing special, and it's an easy snack to buy or make at home.
I will say muffins are special. There's nothing better than a good muffin with your coffee, but not special to the context that they're talking about here, that they're making it seem like these are godly type items.
Discussing it after hours at 10 p.m. in an email makes it seem like they're not really muffins they're talking about. There's also this email between Jeffrey and Nicole Junkerman, a German investor with a 16-year connection to Jeffrey, including flights, finances, and business, where the two discussed meeting up November 2013. Nicole asked, "At my place or yours?" Jeffrey responded, mentioning a muffin, in a cryptic manner. "Mine, if okay with you. Muffin time." Was Muffin time really just enjoying baked goods together?
No.
Or was it something more? The clues don't stop at potential coded language. The visuals inside the files also raise their own questions.
Yeah, and I think the visuals are something that us as consumers of this cryptic content, it's something that we want to see, right? Like emails are one thing. They can be completely doctored or taken out of context, but the images, they speak for themselves, and you could basically see exactly what's going on, even though you're going to see a lot of redacted faces.
A major visual that stands out are the numerous selfies of Jeffrey with redness around his mouth. One video shows swelling on his eye, while 3 other videos and 1 photo show swelling on the outside and inside of his mouth. The 4 videos circulating social media were extremely hard to find on the DOJ site. It even had people believing it was AI, but our team confirmed they are real. Here are the official file names on screen, and for some strange reason, you cannot access them easily. When opening the file, it'll show no images produced. But a tip from a Redditor, to change the URL address from PDF to a video file format has worked. In this case, MOV, which will result in the video downloading to your device. People theorize Jeffrey's facial swelling could point to something dark, Kuru. According to Medline Plus, Kuru is a very rare brain disease that damages the nervous system. It's linked to people eating brains, human ones, and symptoms can include arm/leg pain, coordination problems, difficulty walking, headache, swallowing difficulty, and tremors. On average, these symptoms can take 10 to 13 years to show up. A real example of Kuru disease was reported in 1957 among the 4 people of Papua New Guinea. They consumed brain tissue of deceased loved ones during funeral rituals. Researchers documented photos of symptoms they witnessed in Kuru patients, such as these 3 individuals who lost coordination and required support to stand up. However, based on available research online, facial and lip swelling are not a known symptom of Kuru. Some speculate it could be an STI, especially given the SA and trafficking allegations tied to Jeffrey.
Right, he was involved with many different young girls, and you never know what could have been passed around.
So, we checked the files, and there is a DOJ lab report under Jeffrey's name that shows he was positive for herpes 1 and herpes 2. Herpes 1 in particular is commonly associated with cold sores and blisters on and around the mouth. But the swelling on Jeffrey's blister does not resemble a cold sore, which typically shows up in clusters of tiny blisters.
Yeah, you would see the white pussy things inside of the mouth, and he's clearly opening it right there. So those are definitely not cold sores, but, maybe a different form of herpes.
What appears to resemble the swelling more is angioedema, swelling that happens under your skin that can affect the lips and face. It can be triggered by allergies, infections, medications, and other inflammatory reactions. Just to show you a comparison, here are some eye and lip angioedema photos. There was also a DOJ file that had the subject line, Jeffrey's angioedema episode, December 5th, 2013, seeming to confirm Jeffrey suffered from angioedema in 2013. As for how it was triggered, there doesn't seem to be any answers. We would also like to bring up a viral photo circulating social media. This photo has people freaked out about the unseasoned mystery meat in the photo, making many people believe it could be human. Pictured at the dinner table is Jeffrey Epstein alongside Bill Clinton.
Yeah, take a look at that meat. That is strange look. That is a strange looking plate. Typically, when you're having something produced, food from a professional chef, it's going to be a vibrant looking plate. This is white, beige, light brown. That does not at all look like a plate that was made by a professional chef, which we know all of his food was of that quality. Definitely something strange looking. You can't tell what it is, but it's strange looking.
Clinton and McJager. However, not to undermine the very real crimes tied to Jeffrey, but this image appears to be altered. We found the file number as seen on the screen here, and the original items on the table were glasses filled with beverages. There was no mysterious...
See? Okay, let's take that back, because you never do know these days what's real and what's not, because the actual image was not the strange looking meat. So, right there, you can't jump to conclusions. I almost did right there with that image of all the meat on the table, but you have to really make sure that what you're looking at is the truth, because you really don't ever know, especially now.
Meat on the table. Here are more angles of the table that night showing Ghislaine Maxwell was also present, and that brings up our next concern. One of Jeffrey's connections stands out more than the rest. Francis Derby. We introduced him earlier as Jeffrey's personal chef from May to November of 2012. According to the files, he was the one that made really good jerky and often made it on demand for Jeffrey in large amounts. Francis worked at Jeffrey's properties in Palm Beach, the New Mexico Ranch, and the Little St. James, or better known as Epstein's Island. But he voluntarily quit his job with Jeffrey in 2012, and it's where he set off to next that set off alarm bells. Francis joined an existing restaurant called the Cannibal. Was that just an unlucky coincidence, or a sick way Jeffrey and his colleagues operated right under our noses?
Is there like this whole network of secret restaurants that are for these upper elite people that do actually serve that type of meat? Like, is that actually a thing? And can it be so hidden that you could actually hide it under the name The Cannibal and no one would even suspect? It's like they're flaunting it in our face.
1 year after Francis quit, a redacted sender wrote Jeffrey this email. Francis has some time tomorrow to show me how to make it. Jerky class, anyone? He will also bring you a taste of his new jerky recipe from the restaurant.
Oh boy.
And sends a warm hello. He is working at the restaurant called Cannibal and cooks, wait for it, beef jerky and steak. The way the last line was phrased after introducing the restaurant name as Cannibal was very specific and only fueled more rumors that beef jerky was code for something else.
Yeah, they did mention steak earlier on when we thought that they were talking about, beef steak. But here, this makes it look like, oh, he cooks beef jerky and steak like it's something very strange, which is probably because it is something strange, right?
What's also strange is there's this email from November 2012 where Francis already taught a jerky class before his last day on the job, and an email with the recipe was already on file. So why was Francis visiting 1 year later? The internet started digging into Francis's life as a chef and found an appearance on the talk show Good Day LA, where Francis promoted the Cannibal.
Joining us right now is Chef Francis Derby from the newly opened The Cannibal LA.
People feared the worst, pointing to the segment as proof that Francis looked nervous when speaking about the different cuts of meat he brought.
This sandwich has a little bit of everything. So this has bacon, and it has ham, and it has sausage. We do all our sausage in-house, so the goodies.
And what is this right here?
So this is actually a culatello, which is a kind of a kind of prosciutto.
Okay.
This one comes from a salumeria in New York that we deal with in New York that we brought out here to LA.
Keep cooking, Chef. Come on.
This had people leaving comments like these. He's so nervous.
Now, maybe he's just a nervous guy. Okay, look, maybe he's not a personality for television. It's possible that he's just a nervous dude and he's not great on camera because he's a chef, right? Or it's possible that he's nervous because he knows what he's talking about. But would he really be ballsy enough to go on television and actually bring those types of meats with him? I don't think so. I think that would be absolutely insane. But hey, crazier things have happened.
At how he immediately lost eye contact and looked down after the host said cannibal. Sausages are made in-house? From what source, sir? Why was he stuttering when he says it's the meat they deal with in New York? Viewers felt something was off about the meat. I just searched up what colatello looks like, and dude is not cooking with this meat. They say human meat resembles pork the most. I see a lot of pork products. And someone claiming to be a chef added, that is not pig. Texture is wrong, and you have to cook raw pig thoroughly unless it's curated. And curated pig gets more red, like prosciutto. Also, you don't put so much toppings to hide expensive meat at the bottom. Then there was the way one of the hosts kept repeating this off-putting phrase.
I see you've got all this meat here, from the nose to the tail, or as we say, from the rooter to the tutor.
Which made some suspicious, leading to the theory that she's definitely letting us know about their
rooter to the
alleged
tutor.
practices. Our team tried looking for menus from the Cannibal and found one from their New York location. There is a menu item called Nose to Tail Dining that features pig, lamb, or beef for a large format feast, so it might not be entirely random.
With at least 1 week's notice. Wow. Okay, so that is a specialty item that very well could be what we think it could be.
For the host to emphasize that. We also found something important. If you recall, the Epstein email explicitly mentions his new jerky recipe from the restaurant. So we searched for jerky, and it was there after all. Listed on the back, under the bar snacks, is Cannibal jerky for $10. But unlike the other menu items, which list the main ingredients beneath the name, and unlike the other bar snacks, which are self-explanatory, the jerky listing remains vague, using Cannibal as the only descriptor.
Wow. I mean, that's just telling you right there exactly what it is.
This could, of course, be completely innocent and just a play on the restaurant's name. So
Possible.
we know it's a confirmed menu item. That means there has to be photos of the infamous jerky. We went straight to Yelp and looked through over 700 photo reviews, and we found it. This is the Cannibal jerky.
Oh boy. Okay. That is a dark looking jerky. And why are there only, okay, let's look at these plates right here. 4 plates in front of us. The plates all seem to be full helpings, like that was just brought out and served. You have 4 right here, a full plate of what look like some type of chicken tendery things. Looks like a tuna tartare, full plate right here. And then this plate right here with the jerky looks very unfinished. Only 3 pieces, or it looks like 2.5 pieces of the jerky, which means it seems like it would come across as something that's very hard to come by, or very sparse, which means it's like a fine delicatessen.
There are very thin slices that show up as a very dark brown, almost black color, which might be attributed to the red chili soy sauce that is seemingly used to season it. After that 2013 email, there doesn't seem to be any further interactions with Jeffrey. Francis would go on to work for the Cannibal for another 5 years before leaving in May 2017 to pursue other culinary interests. With so many theories swirling, Francis quickly shut down the rumors in a statement to the Post, claiming, "At the time I accepted the position, I had no knowledge of who Mr. Epstein was and was unaware of any allegations of misconduct. My role was to procure food, plan meals, and provide culinary service. My responsibilities were in the kitchen. My only time outside the kitchen was serving meals in the dining room and staff quarters, and I was directed to avoid common areas. I left the position of my own accord in November 2012. Up until this point, we've been discussing clues and cannibal conspiracies tied to them. But this next part is where those suspicions are much harder to ignore."
All right, so we did speak before about witnesses. I said all these people that are involved in this whole web of what we're discussing here today, no one said a thing, and it's probably because of the fear of, being arrested or worse. But now maybe we're going to hear something from witnesses. Have people said this? And I know that some people have been screaming this from the rooftops, and we've discussed them on the channel before, but they're often looked at as if they are crazy people. I wonder here if we have some more.
In the Epstein file database, there exists a very disturbing file that isn't being talked about enough. That file name is EFTA 012466048. There's a real FBI interview summary from 2019 that was later made public by DOJ. In it, an interviewee makes allegations that reference cannibalism. To be clear, what we're about to show you isn't a verbatim transcript of the interview, but an FBI agent's written summary of what the interview said.
Okay.
Nonetheless, what's being described is horrifying. The victim stated that he first met Epstein at approximately age 4 while at the redacted Greenwich, Rhode Island. The victim claimed that he was essayed by his great uncle and that Jeffrey was present but did not engage, not until years later at the age of 8. The victim alleged at 8 years old, while sailing on a large luxury yacht, an unknown doctor performed what he described as a medical exam, which was really just SA. Right after, the victim claimed he was essayed by Jeffrey Epstein and former United States President Bill Clinton while in a heavy narcotic-induced state. The victim also claimed they were subjects to acts of cruelty. Multiple men of color and Caucasian women had the same injuries and engaged in intimate acts. When the FBI agent asked about evidence, such as injuries or scars, the victim responded, "On my behind." The victim also noted 3 other important people on the yacht who allegedly bore witness to all the disturbing acts. Former United States President George Bush, who was allegedly getting intimate with one of the men of color. Former United States Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, and businessman George Soros. Now here's the part about cannibalism. The victim also described several infants being ended and certain parts being removed, as well as other acts of cannibalism.
Wow.
So with this in mind, could those earlier emails mean something completely different? Now, outside of the Epstein files, all these emails, videos, and photos have reignited a wider conversation about the cases where cannibalism was allegedly quietly normalized in plain sight. An old video from 2009 has resurfaced online with a woman the news has identified as Gabriela Rico Jimenez.
She's the one that was outside screaming, they are eating others and things like that. We've seen this clip before.
A young model from Monterrey, Mexico. In the video captured by live television in Mexico, Gabriela seemed to be frantically pacing outside of a hotel. Pay attention to what she says.
No one believes what she's saying. They're just looking at her as some crazy person out there that's absolutely nuts, when really she could be exposing what's actually happening the whole time.
We also found a longer clip with more context, filled with more serious accusations. Unfortunately, throughout this whole screaming session of hers,
she's not doing this in a way. She's obviously being reactive to what she just saw and how crazy things are. And unfortunately, she wasn't able to speak in a way that people would take her seriously. And instead, they looked at her like she was insane while she was doing this, when quite honestly, she was probably just speaking the truth the whole time. She just didn't present it properly.
In this rant, Gabriella seemed to be implying that powerful people knew about or were protected around acts of murder and cannibalism. When she names Mourinho, she is likely talking about Juan Camilo Mourinho, Mexico's interior secretary at the time, who died months earlier in a plane crash in November 2008. Gabriella seemed to suggest that his death was suspicious. When she names Carlos Slim Domecq, she is likely talking about Carlos Slim Domet, a powerful Mexican businessman who is son of billionaire Carlos Slim Elo. Gabriella seemed to suggest that he knew about cover-ups and inhumane acts. But when Gabriella's allegations shift to queens, princesses, and even Mickey Mouse, it becomes much harder to interpret. These references could suggest symbolism or code words we don't understand, or could point to distress and confusion. But as we've seen with Epstein's Island, it's possible confusing settings can be purposely used to disorient people. Another strange thing about this video is Gabriella's banana graphic shirt. Does it say yummy or yum yum on her shirt? Which could be a reference to Pizzagate. We have an in-depth video about this and its possible connection to Justin Bieber's Yummy music video.
I don't think that the shirt that she was wearing was symbolism. I don't think that she's presenting anything in this sense that would have been thought out, premeditated, and wearing the proper clothing to be a symbol of something.
That will explain exactly why these words are so disturbing given her situation. Another incident that's resurfacing is the Amy Winehouse cake. Back in October 2011, actor Neil Patrick Harris and his partner, actor and chef Dave Bertka, hosted a Halloween party in 2011. And their menu drew attention, a buffet meat platter made to resemble what they labeled as the corpse of Amy Winehouse. Also on the name tag, there's text that reads, beef ribs, pulled pork, chicken sausage, and a spicy barbecue sauce. This was only a few months after Amy Winehouse passed away in July 2011.
That's actually really strange that Neil Patrick Harris would have a dish like that at a party, being that an industry person, someone that he had probably worked with or at least knew, dies a few months earlier and then has that as a joke gag dish. Super weird.
Which led to theories that this may not have been an ordinary cake. I think someone should have taken a sample of that cake to a lab. She was sacrificed, or at the very least, some sort of sick fantasy. A decade later, in 2022, only after the images resurfaced and received backlash, Neil Patrick Harris issued an apology. It was regrettable then, and it remains regrettable now. Amy Winehouse was a once-in-a-generation talent, and I'm sorry for any hurt this image caused. But now, in 2026, with the release of the files, people are once again questioning the cake and Neil's apology. At the same time, another image was floating around that looked even more realistic from a different event, showing what looks like a body laying in a box of dark liquid. Guests including Lady Gaga and performance artist Marina Abramovich surrounded a piece with forks. From the photos alone, many believed the guests were eating human.
That's crazy.
Because Lady Gaga and Marina were already known for controversial imagery, it became even easier for people online to believe that they would take part of something this dark. For more answers, we traced back to where the photo came from and found they were taken at the Watermill Center's 20th annual summer benefit in New York in July 2013. It's an art fundraiser open to both adults and children, and the theme that year was Devil's Heaven. We found a video directly from the Watermill Center's website showing a much closer look at the display. As you can see, there's a real breathing human laying in the raised wooden box.
Oh boy. Okay, that looks a lot like what Lady Gaga was taking a stab out of. This stuff is getting stranger and stranger.
Considering the theme was Devil's Heaven, the liquid surrounding the body was likely an edible syrup or sauce made to resemble blood. Still, online people were skeptical about what could have happened after the show, wondering if those kids made it out alive. Won't be surprised if they consumed blood. So creepy. An unverified claim from an ex-user alleged, "My sister owns a house next door to this place. Crazy goes on there, especially in the woods. She would hear screams coming from the woods all the time. Definitely cultists."
Oh boy.
The other art exhibits weren't any less disturbing, such as many instances of performers being restrained, hiding, being used like objects while their bodies were unclothed and painted. and some draped in cloth while standing in a forest resembling a cult. Those aren't the only celebrities caught in a suspicious setting. Another clip that's resurfaced comes from season 15 of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, where the family went on a trip to Japan. The part that's going viral is when Kim tried mochi for the first time and said,
"Remember those, you guys? This mochi? I've never been a mochi girl myself." "Really? It tastes like I'm eating a dead body, like chewing the skin."
Wow. She says it just like that, like she has experience chewing the skin of a dead body.
With the release of the Epstein files, people were looking at this clip closer, writing, "How does one tell how a dead body tastes?" What makes this even more eerie, back on season 8, there is an episode where the family discusses eating human placenta, the organ that nourishes the baby during pregnancy and is pushed out after the baby's born.
"I want to have a third child just to eat the placenta."
Here we go. That's just strange. These people are strange. They live a different life than us.
I will eat some of Kim's.
Eating the placenta is like cannibalism.
Both Kim and Kourtney have publicly said that they took their own placenta in a capsule form after giving birth. Kourtney believed that it would help with healing after birth, and Kim believes it would help lower risk of postpartum depression. However, new research suggests that these benefits are not well proven. And old studies have shown that there can be safety concerns for mothers and their babies, including viral and bacterial infections. Outside of real-life events, some people have also pointed to films, arguing that Hollywood and elite circles were openly hinting at cannibalism all along, either to normalize it or to mock the public right in our faces. Take a look at the show Atlanta. In season 3, episode 10, two friends attended an elite party where human hands were served. All guests were asked to cover their eyes with napkins while dining, and the experience was described as sacred and sensuous.
A meal that I assure you rivals even the finest banquet at Mount Olympus. And now, les mains. Bon appétit.
In the film What You Wish For, two friends are chefs, but after one friend passes away, the other friend who is drowning in gambling debt takes over his wealthy friend's identity. He later discovers this job involves serving humans to wealthy clients. After realizing, he tried to leave but gets warned.
Do you know how much our guests pay to dine with us? 1.5 million. We kill on average 50 people a year, plus 25 in the cleanup, so 75 deaths a year, and we generate over $100 million.
In the film Fresh, a man kidnaps his dates and sells parts of their bodies as luxury meat to wealthy buyers.
Yeah, it looks like there are quite a few movies that I have to go find and watch just to catch up with this.
In the show Hannibal, a forensic psychiatrist who works alongside the FBI as an outside consultant while secretly serving human to unsuspecting friends and colleagues in his home.
Loin, served with a Cumberland sauce of red fruits.
Loin. What kind?
Pork.
Wonderful.
All of those are just a few examples. Whether these films are just pure coincidence or something more, there's no doubt this content is disturbing. So, right now, much of what we're relying on is a witness's word of mouth, with no clear video or photo evidence of cannibalism among the rich and powerful. But we also cannot pretend that these people are incapable of evil. History has shown us that powerful people can get away with horrifying acts for years. Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein, Brian Peck, and Diddy are just a few reminders that the public often learns the truth far later than they should. And this is exactly why people keep asking questions, because maybe the clues might lead to something. And even if one victim can be vindicated, then it's worth speaking up.
Now, those were some insane things found inside of the files, and in my opinion, quite a bit of evidence towards these actions actually happening. I look forward to hearing certain people step forward and shed more light on this situation. People that were within this community of evil and brave enough to share the truth today. I actually did a video breaking down that whole Roseanne Barr experience. You could check that one out over here. Guys, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you over there.